Marcus Chen stood in the self-help section of the all-night bookstore, his fingers tracing the spines of books he'd already read. The 7 Habits, Atomic Habits, Think and Grow Rich, The Secret. 43 books in 18 months and he was still here, still searching, still broke. His phone buzzed. A notification from his banking app. Low balance alert, $47.32 remaining. He was 34 years old, living in his sister's basement, working a job he hated, and convinced that somewhere in these pages was the answer that would change everything. There had to be something he was missing, some piece of wisdom that successful people knew but weren't quite explaining properly. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Rain battered the windows, and Marcus reached for another book, this one promising to reveal the hidden principles of ultra-successful people. He didn't know it yet, but tonight would be the last time he ever searched for a secret. Part 1: The Seeker. Chapter 1: Tuesday morning. The alarm screamed at 5:47 a.m., same as always. Marcus had set it for 5:45, but he'd already hit snooze once. The second snooze was a habit so ingrained he barely registered doing it anymore. Wake up at 5 a.m., the morning routine experts said. That's what successful people do. He'd tried. God, he'd tried. For 3 weeks he'd actually done it, dragging himself out of bed in the dark, making coffee with shaking hands, sitting down to write in his journal about his goals and affirmations. But gradually, 5 a.m. became 5:15, then 5:30, and now he was back to 5:47 with the crushing knowledge that he couldn't even follow through on waking up early. Marcus stumbled to the bathroom in his sister's basement, careful not to knock over the stack of books on his makeshift nightstand. Rich Dad Poor Dad sat on top, dog-eared and highlighted in 3 different colors. He'd read it twice, taken 18 pages of notes, and still had no idea how to actually apply any of it. In the shower, he mentally reviewed his goals for the 10,000th time. Start a successful business. Become financially free. Move out of Claire's basement. Prove to everyone he wasn't a failure. The problem wasn't the goals. Everyone said to write down your goals. He had them memorized, written in 7 different notebooks, typed on his phone, saved as his laptop wallpaper. The problem was the gap between knowing what he wanted and actually achieving it. There had to be a bridge, a method, a secret. At his desk job at Meridian Insurance, Marcus went through the motions. Claims processing, the same spreadsheets, the same conversations. His cubicle neighbor, Gary, talked about his fantasy football team. His manager, Deborah, sent passive-aggressive emails about TPS reports. During his lunch break, Marcus watched YouTube videos about entrepreneurship. A 23-year-old in a rented Lamborghini explained how he made $100,000 a month with dropshipping. It's simple, the kid said, his teeth impossibly white. You just need to follow my proven system. Marcus had bought 3 proven systems in the past year. Total cost, $2,847. Total revenue generated, $0. But maybe this one would be different. His phone rang. Claire's name appeared on the screen. Hey, he answered. Marcus, we need to talk tonight. Her voice had that tired quality he'd come to dread. Sure, what about? Tonight after dinner. She hung up. Marcus stared at his computer screen, his stomach tight. He knew what "we need to talk" meant. Claire and her husband Dave had been patient for 2 years, but patience had limits. They had a baby on the way now. They needed the basement. He opened his banking app again. $47.32. His credit cards were maxed. His student loans were in forbearance. Again. That evening, Marcus stopped at the bookstore before heading home. Just to browse, he told himself. Just to clear his head. Chapter 2: The Man in the Corner. The business section was busy for a Tuesday evening. A woman in yoga pants photographed book covers with her phone. A teenager sat cross-legged on the floor, reading The 4-Hour Workweek. And in the corner, partially hidden behind a display of productivity journals, sat an old man in a worn suit. Marcus wouldn't have noticed him at all except the old man was doing something strange. He was reading a self-help book and laughing. Not chuckling politely, but genuinely laughing, the kind of deep belly laugh that made other customers glance over in confusion. Marcus found himself drawn closer. The old man looked up, tears of laughter in his eyes. "I'm sorry," the old man said, still grinning. "It's just, listen to this." He read aloud. "The universe is waiting to give you everything you desire. You just need to ask with the right vibrational frequency." He dissolved into laughter again. The universe, just sitting there waiting. If only we'd asked with the right frequency. Marcus felt defensive. What's wrong with that? Plenty of successful people believe in manifestation. "Oh, I'm sure they do," the old man said, wiping his eyes. "I'm sure they believe all sorts of things. Doesn't make it true." He closed the book and looked at Marcus with unexpected sharpness. "How many books have you read, son?" "What?" "Self-help books, success books, how to get rich books, how many?" Marcus hesitated. "I don't know, maybe 40 or 50. "And how successful are you?" The question landed like a punch. Marcus felt his face flush. "I'm working on it." "Working on it?" The old man nodded slowly. "By reading book number 51. Knowledge is important." "Knowledge?" The old man stood up, surprisingly spry for someone who looked to be in his 70s. He gestured at the shelves around them, hundreds of books promising transformation. "This isn't knowledge. This is entertainment. These are bedtime stories for adults who want to believe success is just one secret away." Marcus started to walk away, but the old man's voice stopped him. "I was like you once," he said quietly. "Spent 5 years reading these books, went to seminars, bought courses, learned all the secrets." He paused. "Want to know what happened?" Despite himself, Marcus turned back. "What?" "Nothing, absolutely nothing happened. I was still broke, still working a job I hated, still living in my brother's spare room." The old man smiled, but it was sad. "The books made me feel like I was doing something, like I was moving forward, but I was just reading." "So what changed?" Marcus asked. "I stopped reading." "That's it, that's your advice, stop learning." "I didn't say stop learning. I said stop reading." The old man picked up his own book, one Marcus didn't recognize. "There's a difference between learning and seeking. Learning is what happens when you do something and pay attention to the results. Seeking is what happens when you keep looking for the magic answer that makes doing unnecessary." Marcus shook his head. "You don't understand. I need to find the right approach first. I can't just jump in blind." "Why not?" "Because I'll fail." "So?" The old man's eyes were kind. "What exactly do you think you're doing right now?" The words hung in the air between them. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. "Look," the old man said, his voice gentler. "I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to save you from wasting your life the way I wasted mine. You want to know the real secret?" Marcus nodded, hating himself for still wanting to know. "There is no secret. There's just work. Boring, difficult daily work. And most people would rather read about work than actually do it." The old man started to walk away, then stopped. "My name is Henry, by the way, Henry Walsh. If you ever want to hear about my wasted years and what happened after, I'm here most Tuesday evenings." He smiled. "Usually in the history section. Much better stories, and nobody pretends they have the secret to your life." Marcus watched him disappear into the stacks. The book in his own hand suddenly felt heavy. He looked at the cover. "Unlock Your Hidden Potential, The Secret Formula of Champions." He put it back on the shelf. Chapter 3: The Conversation. Claire and Dave were waiting in the living room when Marcus got home. Dave was doing that thing where he tried to look simultaneously sympathetic and firm, like a guidance counselor about to deliver bad news. Claire just looked tired. "Sit down, Marcus," she said. He sat. "We love you," Claire began, which was never a good sign. "And we've been happy to help you get back on your feet, but it's been 2 years now and we have the baby coming," Dave finished. "We need to convert the basement into a nursery." Marcus nodded. He'd known this was coming. "How long do I have?" "End of the month," Claire said. 6 weeks. "I'm sorry, Marcus, but we have to think about our family." "I know it's okay, I understand." But it wasn't okay. 6 weeks to find an apartment he couldn't afford, on a salary that barely covered his car payment and phone bill. He'd been saving for his business, for his future, not for first and last month's rent. "Have you thought about night school?" Dave asked. "You could get a certificate in something, increase your earning potential." Marcus had thought about it. He'd researched programs, downloaded applications, but night school meant accepting that this was his path: degree, job, debt, retirement, death. It meant giving up on his dreams of building something meaningful, of being his own boss, of proving everyone wrong. "I'll figure something out," Marcus said. After they went upstairs, he sat in the darkness of the basement, listening to the furnace kick on and off. His laptop glowed on the desk, open to a tab about the latest AI business opportunity. Only $497 for the full course. Payment plan available. He thought about Henry, the old man from the bookstore. "I wasted 5 years reading these books." Marcus closed the laptop. 6 weeks, 42 days to change his entire life. No more time to search for secrets. No more time to prepare. He either did something real or he ended up sleeping in his car. For the first time in 2 years, Marcus felt something shift. Not motivation exactly. He'd felt motivated 1,000 times before. This was different. This was desperation mixed with a strange kind of clarity. He pulled out a notebook, a fresh one, not one of the 7 he'd already filled with goals and plans, and wrote a single question at the top of the page. What would I do if I stopped searching for the answer and just did something? He stared at the question for a long time. Then he started writing. Part 2, The Work. Chapter 4, Small Beginnings. Marcus woke up at 5:47 a.m. on Wednesday morning and didn't hit snooze. Not because he was following some guru's morning routine, but because he couldn't sleep. His mind was racing with the list he'd made the night before. The list wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a business plan or a vision board or a manifesto. It was just a series of small, concrete actions. List everything I own that I don't need on Facebook Marketplace. Cancel all subscription services, including the $47 a month Success Coaching program. Contact every person I know who runs a business and offer to help them for free on evenings and weekends. Apply for 3 better-paying jobs, even if they're not aligned with my passion. Stop buying books and courses. That last one hurt to write. Buying information felt like making progress, but Henry's words kept echoing in his mind. This is entertainment. These are bedtime stories. By 6:30 a.m., Marcus had photographed 15 items from his basement collection. Old textbooks, a guitar he'd never learned to play, a bread maker still in its box, electronics he'd bought on impulse. He posted them all to Facebook Marketplace with honest descriptions and reasonable prices. At work during his first break, he got 3 messages from buyers. By lunch, he'd sold $180 worth of stuff. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was real. Money he'd earned by doing something, not by consuming information about doing something. The feeling was strange, almost foreign. That evening, instead of watching YouTube videos about entrepreneurship, Marcus sent emails. 15 of them to every business owner he could think of, former classmates, parents of childhood friends, members of his gym, the guy who ran the pizza place near his office. The email was simple. Hi name. I know you run business. I'm trying to learn how real businesses actually work, and I was wondering if you'd let me help you for free for a few hours a week. I can do basic tasks, whatever you need. I just want to learn by doing. No obligation, and I promise I'm not trying to pitch you anything or sell you a course. Just want to learn from someone who's actually doing it. Thanks, Marcus. He hit send on all 15 before he could overthink it. By 9 p.m., he had 3 responses. 2 were polite rejections. The third was from Mike Reyes, who owned a small HVAC company. Actually, yeah, I could use help with my social media and maybe organizing some paperwork. It's a mess. Can you come by Saturday morning? Marcus stared at the email. Social media for an HVAC company wasn't sexy. It wasn't going to make him a millionaire, but it was real. It was something. He typed back, "I'll be there." Chapter 5: The Real World. Mike's HVAC shop was in an industrial park on the edge of town, sandwiched between an auto body shop and a plumbing supply store. It smelled like metal and motor oil. Mike himself was a big guy in his 50s with permanent grease stains on his hands and a no-nonsense demeanor. "So you want to learn about business," Mike said, leading Marcus through a cramped office piled with invoices and parts catalogs. "Yes, sir." "Why?" "I want to start my own business someday, but I realized I don't actually know how businesses work, like the real day-to-day stuff." Mike grunted. "Most people don't. They think it's all vision boards and passive income." He gestured at the chaos around them. "This is business. Invoices, customer complaints, equipment breakdowns, payroll, advertising that doesn't work, employees who don't show up." "Doesn't sound like the books make it out to be." "That's because people who write books about business aren't usually the people doing business anymore. They're doing the easier thing, selling information about business." Mike pulled out a chair buried under paperwork. "But you want to learn the real thing? Fine. Here's your first lesson, this social media thing everyone says I need. I don't understand it, don't have time for it, but apparently it matters. Make it work." Marcus looked at the desk, the piles of paper, the ancient computer. "What do you want the social media to do?" "Get me customers. That's what business is, getting customers and keeping them happy enough to come back and tell their friends." It was the most honest thing anyone had ever said to Marcus about business. For the next 4 hours, Marcus dove into Mike's business. He looked at the company's barely used Facebook page, last post, 3 years ago. He searched for HVAC companies in the area and studied what they were posting. He looked at review sites and saw that Mike's company had great ratings but almost no online presence. Then he started creating content. Not guru-level professionally designed content, just honest posts. A photo of Mike and his team in front of a work truck, 25 years serving the community. Same-day emergency service. Call us. A before and after of a recent job. A simple video Mike shot on his phone, showing a common AC problem and fix. Nothing fancy. Nothing requiring expensive equipment or a marketing degree. Just real stuff about a real business. "That's it?" Mike asked, looking over his shoulder. "To start, post one of these every few days. Reply to comments. Ask happy customers to leave reviews. It's not complicated, it's just consistent." Mike studied the posts, "And this works?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but it's what I would want to see if I needed an HVAC guy." By the time Marcus left, he'd scheduled out 2 weeks of posts, created a simple template Mike could use to make more, and written down a process for asking customers for reviews. Mike walked him to the door, "Same time next Saturday." "Really? You did more in 4 hours than the marketing consultant I paid $2,000 did in 2 months. Yeah, come back. Maybe I'll even pay you after a few weeks if this generates any business." Marcus drove home in a daze. He hadn't started his own business. He wasn't making millions, but he'd done something real. He'd solved a real problem for a real person, and it felt better than reading 100 books. That night, he got a text from another business owner he'd emailed, Sarah Nguyen, who ran a boutique bakery. "Hey Marcus, saw your email. I could actually use help with inventory management and supplier orders. Boring stuff, but if you're serious about learning, I'm happy to teach you, donuts included." Marcus replied immediately, "When can I start?" Chapter 6: The Pattern. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus fell into a new rhythm. It wasn't the morning routine the books prescribed. It was messier and more exhausting. 5:47 a.m. Wake up, shower, get ready for work. 6:30 a.m. Answer messages from Mike and Sarah about their businesses. 7:30 a.m. 4:30 p.m. day job at Meridian Insurance. 5:00 p.m. 8:00 p.m. work on Mike's social media. Help Sarah streamline her inventory system or meet with other small business owners. 9:00 p.m. 11:00 p.m. actually work on his own business idea. That last part was new. After 3 weeks of helping other people's businesses, Marcus had started to notice patterns, problems that kept coming up, solutions that seemed obvious once you were actually in the trenches. Small business owners all struggled with the same things. They were too busy working in their business to work on their business. They needed help with basic digital stuff, but couldn't afford full-time employees. They didn't trust expensive marketing agencies who made big promises. Marcus's idea wasn't revolutionary. It wasn't AI-powered or disruptive or any of the buzzwords from his entrepreneurship videos. It was simple. A service that helped small businesses with their basic digital needs, social media, simple websites, online reviews, for a flat monthly fee they could actually afford. No long contracts, no upselling, just consistent, practical help from someone who actually showed up and did the work. He named it Ground Level Digital. Not because it was catchy, but because that's what it was, ground-level work that needed doing. Marcus created a simple website using a free template. No fancy graphics or stock photos of people shaking hands. Just a clear description of what he did, examples from Mike's and Sarah's businesses with their permission, and his prices. $400 month per client, month-to-month contract. He didn't launch with a bang, didn't make a big announcement, just quietly sent the link to 10 small business owners in his network and asked if they'd be interested. 5 said no. 3 didn't respond. 2 said maybe, let's talk. Marcus met with the 2 maybes, a family-owned hardware store and a dog grooming salon. He showed them exactly what he'd done for Mike and Sarah, showed them the increase in Mike's calls after just 3 weeks of consistent posting, showed them Sarah's more organized inventory system and how much time it saved her. Neither one signed up immediately. They wanted to think about it. Marcus went home that night feeling deflated. In the YouTube videos, entrepreneurs always talked about their overnight success. The moment everything clicked, the viral post, the flood of customers. This didn't feel like that. This felt like trudging through mud. But the next morning, the hardware store owner called. "Okay, let's try it for a month." Marcus's first real client, $400. He celebrated by texting Claire that he'd sold most of his stuff and would have rent money together by the end of the month. It wasn't much, but it was honest. That evening, instead of going to the bookstore, Marcus went to the hardware store and spent 3 hours photographing products, learning about their inventory, and talking to the owner about what made them different from the big box stores. It was boring work, unglamorous work. But it was his work. And for the first time in 2 years, Marcus felt like he was building something real. Chapter 7: The Hard Lessons. By week 5, Marcus had 2 clients and was sleeping 4 hours a night. The exhaustion was brutal, but there was something clarifying about it. He had no time to read books about success. He had no time to watch videos about the one weird trick that would change everything. He only had time to do the work. Ground-level digital wasn't growing as fast as he'd hoped. He'd imagined signing up 10 clients in the first month, quitting his day job in triumph, moving into a nice apartment. Reality was different. Client 1 hardware store, happy with the work, saw a small uptick in foot traffic, renewed for month 2. Client 2, dog grooming salon, frustrated that they weren't going viral, wanted more engagement, questioned whether $400 was worth it. Marcus learned hard lessons. Lesson 1: expectations are everything. He'd promised the dog grooming salon a better online presence. They'd heard Instagram famous. He'd meant people know you exist online. The gap between those two things was vast. He had a difficult conversation where he explained that going viral wasn't a strategy, it was luck. What he could offer was consistency, professionalism, and gradual growth. They decided not to renew. It stung, not just losing the client but feeling like he'd failed. The old Marcus would have spiraled, read a book about client management, watched videos about sales psychology. The new Marcus sent a polite email thanking them for the opportunity, asked for honest feedback, and immediately reached out to 3 new potential clients. Lesson 2: problems are opportunities. Mike's HVAC business had a busy week, 3 major installations and 2 emergency calls. He was overwhelmed. His phone was ringing constantly. His scheduling was a mess. "I need a system," Mike said, frustrated. "I'm losing track of who's supposed to be where." Marcus spent his Saturday researching simple scheduling software. Nothing fancy or expensive, just something that would help Mike manage his team and appointments. He found one, set it up, and trained Mike's office manager on how to use it. "This isn't really social media," Mike said. "No," Marcus agreed, "but it's what you need." Mike pulled out his checkbook. "You said $400 a month. Here's $600. You're solving real problems, not just posting pictures. That's worth more." Marcus learned that value wasn't about doing exactly what was in the contract. It was about actually helping people with what they needed. Lesson 3: patience is torture. 3 weeks into running ground-level digital, Marcus had 1 client, $600 in revenue, and $2,300 in monthly expenses between his car payment, phone, insurance, student loan minimums, and the cheapest apartment he could find. The math didn't work. He picked up 2 more insurance shifts at work to cover the gap, applied for a credit card, sold more stuff from his basement, ate a lot of rice and beans. Every fiber of his being wanted to find the shortcut, the growth hack, the viral strategy. His YouTube recommendations were still full of people promising that 1 funnel away he'd be making 6 figures. But he'd learned something over these weeks of actual work. Those people were selling hope. He was selling solutions. Hope felt better. Solutions paid bills eventually. On Tuesday evening, Marcus found himself back at the bookstore. Not in the self-help section, but in history, where Henry had said he'd be. The old man was there, reading a book about the Industrial Revolution. "You came back," Henry said, looking up. "I stopped reading," Marcus said, "started doing. And it's hard, really hard. I have 1 client, I'm exhausted. I'm barely making ends meet, and I have no idea if this is going to work." Henry nodded slowly. "Good. Good. You're in it now, the real work, not the fantasy work where you read about success from your basement and imagine how great it'll be. The actual work where you're tired and uncertain and wondering if you made a mistake." Henry smiled. "That's where everyone who actually succeeds lives, in the uncertainty." "The books never talk about this part." "Of course not. This part doesn't sell. Who wants to buy a book that says you're going to work harder than you've ever worked, make less money than you hoped, question yourself constantly, and maybe, if you're lucky and persistent, you'll build something sustainable in a few years?" Marcus laughed despite himself. That's a terrible sales pitch. It's also the truth. Henry closed his book. Want to know what I did after I stopped reading? Yeah. I became a locksmith, not glamorous, not going to make me rich. But I was good at it, people needed it, and I built a small business over 15 years that supported my family and let me retire with dignity. He paused. I'm not on any magazine covers. There are no case studies about my innovative disruption of the locksmith industry, but I succeeded, on my own terms, slowly. Was it worth it? The work, yes. The 15 years of searching for shortcuts before that. No, I'll never get that time back. They sat in companionable silence for a while, surrounded by books neither of them was reading. Keep going, Henry finally said. Not because I promise it'll work out, but because you're finally doing something real. That matters whether it succeeds or not. Marcus left the bookstore that night without buying anything, but he felt oddly encouraged. He wasn't looking for secrets anymore. He was just working. Part 3, The Transformation. Chapter 8, Month 3. By the end of Month 3, Ground Level Digital had 4 clients. Mike's HVAC company, $600 month. The hardware store, $400 month. A family law attorney, $500 month. A personal training studio, $450 month. Total monthly revenue, $1,950. Marcus's expenses, $2,300. He was still losing money, still working his day job, still exhausted. But something had changed. The attorney, Janet Park, had referred him to 2 other lawyers in her building. The hardware store owner mentioned him to a friend who owned a garden center. Mike told everyone who would listen about this kid who actually knows how to help small businesses. Marcus wasn't getting rich, but he was building something real. The dog grooming salon that had dropped him. They'd hired a social media expert who charged them $2,000 to create a brand strategy and posted 3 inspirational quotes about dogs before disappearing. They called Marcus back sheepish. I learned my lesson, Marcus told them. I need to be clearer about expectations. You need to be more realistic about what $400 a month gets you. Want to try again? They did. That night Marcus updated his spreadsheet. 5 clients, $2,350 monthly revenue. He was breaking even. Not thriving, not succeeding by YouTube standards, but surviving. At his day job, Marcus's performance had actually improved. When you're building something on the side, the day job becomes less existentially important. It's not your identity anymore. It's just a paycheck funding your real work. His manager, Deborah, noticed, "You seem different lately." Different how? I don't know, less frustrated. You've always seemed like you were waiting for something better, but lately you just work. Marcus thought about that. She was right. He'd spent 2 years at Meridian seething, feeling like he was above it, like he deserved better. Now he just processed claims efficiently and used his brain power for his actual business. I'm building something outside of work, he admitted. That's great, what kind of thing? A service for small businesses, helping them with their digital presence. Deborah was quiet for a moment. You know, my sister owns a catering company. She's always complaining about not understanding social media. Want her contact info. By the end of the week, Marcus had 6 clients. Chapter 9, The Question. 6 months into Ground Level Digital, Marcus had 11 clients and $5,300 in monthly revenue. He'd quit his day job at Meridian. Not dramatically, not burning bridges, just gave 2 weeks' notice and thanked them for the opportunity. Dave and Claire had him over for dinner to celebrate. Their baby, Emma, was 3 months old now, sleeping in the converted basement where Marcus used to live. I'm proud of you, Claire said. I wasn't sure about this business thing, but you really stuck with it. I almost gave up a dozen times. But you didn't. Marcus looked at his niece, sleeping peacefully. I couldn't. Once I'd actually started, giving up meant admitting I'd wasted all those years reading about success instead of pursuing it. Failure was scary, but wasted time was scarier. So it worked out, Dave said. You found the secret. Marcus almost laughed. There was no secret, that's the secret. He told them about the books, the courses, the YouTube videos, about searching for the magic formula while living in their basement, about Henry at the bookstore, about learning that success wasn't hidden knowledge, it was just consistent, unglamorous work over time. The weird thing, Marcus said, is that now, 6 months in, I've learned things that might actually count as secrets, but they're not the kind you can buy in a book. Like what? Like, most businesses aren't competing on innovation or disruption. They're competing on reliability. Mike's HVAC company doesn't need to be revolutionary. It needs to show up when they say they will and do good work. That's it. That's the secret. That's boring, Dave said. Exactly. That's why nobody writes books about it. Nobody wants to read The 7 Habits of Highly Reliable People. They want the one weird trick that makes you rich. Claire fed Emma a bottle. So what now? You keep growing. I think so, but differently then.